My boyfriend proposed. I said I needed time. He sighed. Do you even love me? I wanted to explain. Then I heard him whispering to his system. He's just a tool to gain love points. Once I steal his protagonist aura, I'll cure little fish. Then he smiled at me and said, let's break up. Main story. On Valentine's Day, my boyfriend proposed to me. I was afraid of marriage, so I told him I needed some time to think. Disappointed, he asked, are you going to reject me again, Stefan? Do you really love me? I felt terribly guilty and wanted to explain, but right then, I overheard a conversation between him and another voice. Great, host. Now that you've gotten rid of him, you can go spend Valentine's Day with little fish at the hospital. You were only with him to gain affection points anyway, just to steal his protagonist halo and cure little fish. But will this really work? Louis, tall and graceful, once a spirited youth, now carried himself with calm and quiet restraint. He looked at me and said gently, if I'm the only one trying, I'll get tired too. Let's break up. All while calmly replying to that mysterious voice. He's love-starved. He can't leave me. Only when he loses me will he learn to cherish me. Once he begs to get back together, his affection points will be maxed out. Their conversation echoed in my ears. I stood frozen, a ringing in my head drowning out everything else, even the thought of asking him to stay. I heard those words and yet I couldn't quite understand them. Louis and I had been together for 3 years. He had proposed to me twice before, but I wasn't ready because I was afraid of marriage. But if I had to spend the rest of my life with someone, I always thought it would be Louis. That's why I didn't say no this time. I just asked for more time. I never expected he'd choose to break up. What did he mean? You were only with me to gain affection points. My chest ached sharply. I put on the ring he'd left behind and ran after him. I would rather believe I'd misheard than accept those words as real. Until I followed him to the hospital and saw with my own eyes how he was doting on another boy. In a hospital gown, even bringing flowers. He had just broken up with me. Yet here he was, spending Valentine's Day with someone else. Louis was incredibly gentle with him. I had never seen that side of him before. The boy's eyes were filled with dependence. It was clear this wasn't the first time. And I knew that boy. His name was Fotis, and he was an Omega 2. I could smell Louis's cedar-scented pheromones on him. He'd been marked by my boyfriend. My boyfriend had marked another Omega. I had first met Louis back in high school. I'd done terribly on an exam and was too scared to go home. I sat on the stairs, crying, and Louis caught me red-handed. He was standing in the light, a backpack in hand, smiling slightly. Well, whose little kid is this, crying outside my front door? He crashed into my still, quiet heart like a stone in water, sending ripples I'd never expected. We were in the same year, but he was from class 3, an alpha, handsome, smart, and popular. After that day, we studied together often, encouraged each other, and promised to apply to the same university. Back then, I was the only Omega around him. But there was someone else, someone different. One time, while we were studying in the library, Louis was halfway through explaining a problem when he suddenly stopped and stared out the window. A pale-faced boy stood outside watching us. He wiped a tear from the corner of his eye, then turned and walked away. Louis's expression changed immediately. He stood up and chased after him. I had never seen him look so anxious. He was gone a long time. I waited the whole day in the library. He never came back, and I didn't hear a word from him. That was when I realized this boy was special. So I tucked away my feelings and began treating Louis only as a friend. It seemed Louis noticed. He explained to me, that's Fotis. He used to be my neighbor. He's in poor health and rarely goes out. I just took care of him like a little brother. There's nothing between us. Please believe me. And I did. I even felt happy because if he was explaining things to me, it must mean he liked me. Even just a little. Just like everyone expected, we got into the same university and naturally became a couple. But it was all a lie. I stood at the door of the hospital room, my body gripped by a coldness so sharp I could hardly breathe. From Louis's conversation with the system, I learned the truth. I was the protagonist of this world, the one with the protagonist aura, and Louis was the strategy capturer. His mission was to make me fall in love with him, so he could steal my fortune and transfer it to Fotis to cure him. And once the mission was complete, I would lose all memory of Louis. I reviewed every moment of our 3 years together only to realize I had never truly seen the man I spent every day with. What I thought was salvation, the light in my life, was in fact a premeditated approach from the very beginning. The memories I cherish most, the ones that once moved me to tears, were just bricks in a tower built on lies and manipulation now crumbling down, revealing a rotting foundation. Pain bloomed across my chest like thorns. I stumbled out of the hospital in a daze and took a cab home. But I didn't expect I'd get into a car accident. My mind went blank. Screeching tires. A black sedan losing control. It smashed through the guardrail heading straight for the taxi I was in. I watched helplessly, unable to react. When I opened my eyes again, I saw the white ceiling of a hospital room and heard the voice of a man by the window, speaking on the phone. Louis, Stefan was in a car accident. Where are you? Louis said something on the other end. The man frowned, disbelief in his voice. You broke up with him? His name was Tam, a longtime friend of Louis's. Louis came from a middle-class family. Tam, however, was from an elite background. They weren't from the same world, yet somehow, they became close. I knew Tam through Louis. Then I heard Louis talking to the system again. Think Stefan did it on purpose. To make you worry so you go back and comfort him? I won't go soft. He needs to learn his lesson. When he begs me to take him back, then I'll forgive him. Exactly. Only when he loses you will he learn to cherish you. I felt cold all over, and I laughed bitterly. I'd just been in a car crash, and his first reaction wasn't concern but self-assured anticipation that I'd come crawling back to him. The call ended. Tim turned around and froze for a second when he saw that my eyes were open. Maybe he didn't want me to feel bad, so he gently reassured me. Louis is busy right now. He might take a while to get here. How are you feeling? Busy. Busy figuring out how to use me as a stepping stone for his precious little fish. He wanted me to forget. Luckily, I didn't want to remember him either. My eyes were blank as I looked at Tam. Louis? Who's that? Do I know him? Tam's expression froze for several seconds. Then he repeated, Louis. You don't remember him. Was I supposed to? Tam called the doctor. The diagnosis? Possibly selective amnesia brought on by trauma or emotional shock. Tim sat beside me for a long while in silence. Then, finally, he spoke again. Do you remember me? I nodded. Yes, you're Tam. He let out a quiet sigh of relief. Then, as if something suddenly occurred to him, a cautious glint flickered in his eyes. And, do you remember what we are to each other? I hesitated. Friends. I didn't know what else to say. That was probably the safest answer. A trace of disappointment passed through Tam's eyes. He held my hand and declared with convincing solemnity. Stefan, how could you forget? I'm your fiancé. What? Tam was undeniably attractive. At that moment, his cheek rested softly against the back of my hand, long lashes lowered. His deep eyes gazing at me without blinking, affectionate, with just a hint of grievance. He reached out and gently touched the ring on my finger, confidently claiming ownership. Look, you're still wearing the ring. How could you forget me? Seriously, I never met someone so shameless. If I really had lost my memory, I might have actually been tricked by him. But I still didn't understand why he was doing this. The first time I met Tam was at a dinner Louis had arranged. I found out later that he was also the newly appointed boss at my company. Every time I was in trouble, he was always the first to show up. This time was no exception. He didn't seem all that interested in Louis, but when it came to me, he seemed unusually invested. I'd only suffered minor injuries. After a checkup showed everything was fine, I was discharged the next morning. Tam, with effortless ease, brought me straight to his home, putting on a full act. He had even gone out of his way to recreate the illusion of cohabitation, to pairs of slippers, matching pajamas, coupled toothbrush cups. He had even moved all of my personal belongings from my old apartment into his place. He gave me a new phone, too. All messages and contacts related to Louis had been wiped clean. There were framed photos of me everywhere in the house, ones I'd posted to my social media. Some were solo shots, and some were with Louis. Only Louis had been neatly cropped out of the frame. I stared at everything, stunned by his meticulous attention to detail. Tam hugged me from behind and whispered, "Welcome home. Every corner of this place is filled with traces of you." Honestly, it did feel like my home. He leaned on my shoulder, his chest pressed against my back, his heartbeat steady and warm. The soft scent on him enveloped me. I could feel his pheromones slowly curling around me, gentle, yet assertive. It really felt like we'd been in love for years, like we were just one step away from walking down the aisle together. I pressed my lips together. "I'm sorry. I don't remember any of this. It's okay," he said softly. "You can start remembering now." That night, after I took a shower, I went to call Tam for his turn but paused when I saw him texting someone. He stared at his phone screen, face expressionless. The sharp lines of his handsome features tinged with indifference. Tam, at the sound of my voice, he quickly turned off the screen and gave me a warm smile. "Stefan, you're done? I'll go now." I nodded. Go ahead." After he left, I walked over and unlocked his phone. He never put up any defenses around me. I even knew his passcode. It was my birthday. As soon as I opened it, I saw the chat with Lewis. Lewis, how's Stefan doing? Tam, he's really upset. Why did you break up with him? Lewis, we just had a fight. I didn't really mean to break up. I just wanted to keep him hanging a bit so he'd appreciate me more. Tam, keep him hanging a bit longer. Lewis, got it. Just keep an eye on him for me during this time. Tam, sure. I had hoped I'd discover Tam's hidden motive for getting close to me. But all I found was him playing along with Lewis's little game. He hadn't told Lewis I'd lost my memory. Instead, he kept it secret and even encouraged him to drag things out longer. The intention was obvious. I found it both ridiculous and pathetic. Then I heard Lewis's voice again, speaking to the system. Host, you're amazing. When the protagonist comes back to beg for reconciliation, the affection level will definitely be maxed out. Then you can finally cure Little Fish. I know. As long as Little Fish gets better, it's worth it. His health has improved a lot lately. I'll take him out for some fresh air in a couple of days. I'd been in a car accident, and he hadn't even bothered to come see me, but he was still obsessively concerned about Fotis. For the one he loved. He trampled all over my feelings like it was the most natural thing in the world. That boy who used to stand on the school steps, smiling at me against the light, had faded into a blur. And with him, all those memories began to rot. That night, while I was half asleep, I vaguely felt someone take off my ring and replace it with a new one. Tam knelt beside the bed and gently kissed my finger. Stefan, let's get married. You said you wanted to marry me. What? I was stunned. My eyelashes trembled, but I didn't dare open my eyes. My mind raced, but I couldn't recall even the faintest memory of Tam. Tam was the perfect, considerate lover. He seemed to know everything about me. He made my meals, kissed my face gently when I didn't want to get up, picked me up in his arms, brushed my teeth, and washed my face. He had been working from home the past few days and even used his authority as my boss to let me stay home too. I knew the real reason. He was afraid I'd slip up if I returned to the office. Since I didn't have to work, I was happy to stay and play along. At first, I thought this was just some rich young master's passing obsession. I didn't expect him to take it more seriously than I did. He insisted on doing everything himself, even washing my underwear. Every night, after he showered, he would wash my clothes too. Always late at night. One night, I got up to use the bathroom and saw that the light in the bathroom was still on. The closer I got, the stronger the scent of alpha pheromones faintly laced with sake filled the air. Through the crack in the door, I saw Tam. He stood tall, his physique lean but strong, the broad blades of his shoulders tapering into a slim waist still perfectly sculpted. It made one's heart race. He buried the lower half of his face in my pajamas, greedily inhaling the scent of my pheromones, while his other hand moved. His breathy, suppressed panting was magnetic and sensual, vibrating directly in my ears. The sight shocked me. My face flushed red on the spot. He paused for a moment, perhaps realizing something. I quickly covered my mouth and dared not look any longer. I didn't even go to the bathroom. I just slipped back under the covers like a guilty thief, my heart pounding so wildly it wouldn't calm down. Tam returned some time later, icy cold from the night air. He slipped in behind me, pulling me into his arms and gently kissed the nape of my neck. In front of me, he was always gentle and measured. I never expected that all this time. He'd simply been restraining himself. The next morning, I refused to let him do my laundry. He immediately looked dejected, as if I were some heartless scoundrel. But we always did things this way, didn't we? Did I do something wrong? What always? When have we ever had a past? I swallowed the question that almost slipped from my lips, feeling a bit helpless. Honestly, no matter what I said, he would never oppose me. But when I looked into his eyes, I couldn't bring myself to be harsh. In Tam's study, there was a giant portrait of me, in my graduation gown. His desk also held a framed photo of me. The first time I saw it, I was stunned. Anyone else might have thought he was some obsessive fan of mine. I found it oddly funny and teased him. Why is it only pictures of me? Where are the ones of us together? Aren't we a couple? Tam didn't fumble the way I expected. Instead, he smoothly leaned into the lie. Looking up at me, he said, "You're right. Why don't we go on a date and take some together?" And just like that, Tam brought me to an ice rink, where we took a bunch of photos together. After skating until I was tired, he went off to buy water. I sat at the side, resting, and then I saw someone I didn't expect. Lewis and Fotis. Lewis had his hand around Fotis's waist. Fotis was smiling shyly, practically melting into Lewis's arms. To any outsider, they looked like a couple. I didn't want to look anymore, so I turned away. But at that moment, Louis happened to glance up and saw me sitting quietly in a corner. He frowned. Fotis noticed too. Louis seemed to say something to him, and then skated over to me, his eyes filled with disapproval. Stefan, what are you doing here? Who told you I was here? I froze. I looked up at him, my gaze calm and unfamiliar, devoid of all the love that had once been there. Hi, I'm sorry, who are you? Louis blinked. It was clear he hadn't processed my words yet. Fotis joined us, a friendly smile on his delicate face. Stefan, what a coincidence. You're here too. I've been feeling better lately, so Louis brought me out for some fun. Are you here alone? He used to be like this, too gentle and innocent as he stole Louis away from me. Because of his poor health, everyone bent over backward to accommodate him. As long as he was around, Louis never saw anyone else. I smiled back at him. What a coincidence. I'm here with my fiancé. Is this your boyfriend? Fotis' smile faltered. He looked at me, confused. Louis froze as well. His brows furrowed tightly. What are you talking about? Fotis and I are just friends. A trace of doubt crossed my eyes. Is that so? But hasn't he been marked by you? I can smell it. Louis's expression darkened. Fotis is unwell. His doctor advised against using suppressants. I was just helping him. There's nothing between us. My smile remained calm as if I didn't care at all. So that's how it was. If this had happened before, I would have been heartbroken. I would have questioned him endlessly. But now, I felt nothing. Louis noticed my indifferent expression. None of the reactions he expected appeared. No jealousy, no sadness. It was like he was just a stranger to me. He frowned again, as if he wanted to say something. Stefan, I'm back. Tam returned at that moment with 2 bottles of water. I turned toward his voice with a gentle, loving smile as if I were looking at the person I truly cherished. My expression toward him was nothing like how I looked at Louis. Tam twisted open the cap and held the bottle to my lips. His actions smooth and practiced like he'd done it 1,000 times. He patted my head indulgently. Drink slowly. Feeling better? I nodded, clutching his sleeve like a habit. Louis froze. The sight before him stiffened his body and scrambled his thoughts. He grabbed Tam's collar, grinding his teeth. What the hell is this? Tam, what do you mean fiancé? Tam hadn't even had the chance to speak before I stepped forward and pushed Louis away. I frowned at him. Sir, if you have something to say it properly. Don't lay a hand on my boyfriend. Louis stared at me, stunned by the disgust in my eyes. It was like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. I had never looked at him that way. His jaw tightened. His gaze twisted into something almost absurd. Your boyfriend, system, host. It looks like the protagonist only lost their memories of you. Little Fish's health is also improving, so the affection score must be maxed out. We've completed the mission. Louis froze mid-movement. The anger on his face fell apart, replaced by emptiness and confusion. He realized too late. Louis, the mission is complete. System, yes. I no longer have any active progress. The affection score has reset to 0. That must mean the protagonist has forgotten you, hence the reset. Louis, I see. I straightened Tam's collar, too busy to bother with Louis. Tam looked down at me, staring as if he could never get enough. Once I was done, he leaned down and kissed me on the cheek. My face flushed. What was that for? Tam's eyes curved in a smile. Couldn't help it. Sorry. Let's go home. Louis watched from the side. His fist clenched and unclenched as if he wanted to say something but ultimately swallowed it down. I'd forgotten him. Because he made me forget. It was what he wanted, so I let it be. Before we left, Tam turned to Louis, utterly unfazed by his earlier aggression. He even looked relaxed. Stefan and I are heading home. You two enjoy the rest of your day. He took my hand and turned to go. But Louis, for once, stopped us. His face was dark, his smile forced and cold. Tam, since we've already run into each other, why don't we all have dinner together? Tam glanced back at him. Sure. We started discussing where to eat. Then Louis suggested, how about Sichuan? My boyfriend and I used to go all the time. He looked right at me as he said it, like he was sure I'd take the bait. Louis and I had gone to that restaurant many times. He thought I loved it, but I didn't. I only said I did because he liked it. But Tam shook his head. No, if we're dining together, it should suit everyone's taste. Stefan doesn't eat spicy food. Louis froze for a second, his brows furrowing. That can't be right. I nodded. It's true. My stomach's weak. If I eat too much spice, I'll need medication. Louis's jaw clenched. It seemed like something finally clicked. We'd gone out for Sichuan food many times, yet every time I either secretly took medicine or quietly endured the discomfort. Sometimes he even saw me, but he never asked, never cared. And now, he learned I couldn't eat spicy food from someone else. For a moment, his expression froze. His face darkened. His fists curled tightly. We ended up at a Japanese restaurant, the four of us seated across from one another. The food was great. Tam kept picking dishes for me, feeding me bite after bite. Louis, watching from the side, looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Fotis noticed Louis's reaction and didn't look too pleased either. Back when Louis and I were together, despite being a couple, he had eyes only for Fotis. He would drop everything at a word from him, abandoning me without a second thought. Forcing a smile, Fotis asked, "So, when did you two get together?" I had no idea. Louis turned his eyes to us as well. Tam smiled. Stefan had an accident a while ago and lost those memories. But that doesn't matter. What matters is we're getting married. We'll be together for the rest of our lives. Of course, you're invited to the wedding. Louis let out a cold laugh. You've only been together a few days since the memory loss. Don't you think marriage is a bit rushed? I wrapped my arm around Tam's and smiled gently, eyes filled with trust and reliance. I love Tam. I'm willing to marry him. That's all that matters. Louis's head snapped up. His jaw twitched, and his eyes dark as ink looked like a storm about to break. What? He knew how afraid I was of marriage. I'd rejected his proposals twice. But now, after only a few days with Tam, I was willing to say yes. Tam paused too, slowly turning to look at me. Something flickered in his eyes. After a moment of silent eye contact, his face lit up with joy. He squeezed my hand and turned to Louis and Fotis. With genuine warmth, he said, "Then I wish you both happiness as well." Louis's expression darkened even further. His voice dipped low but grew louder, laced with displeasure. "I'm not in a relationship with Fotis. We're just friends." As if being mistaken for his boyfriend was the worst insult imaginable, he hastily cleared the air. Fotis paled. He bit his lip, saying nothing. Tam tilted his head, feigning surprise. "Friends? Do friends mark each other?" "Oh, I see. Sorry, I must have misunderstood. I didn't realize innocent friends go around marking each other." Louis's explanation fell utterly flat. Fotis couldn't keep a straight face anymore. He turned to Louis. "Louis, I'm tired. I want to go home." Louis's expression remained frosty, as if he hadn't realized how out of line he'd been. "I'll call a driver for you." Fotis pressed his lips together. He seemed like he wanted to say something but swallowed it down. "No need. I'll go back on my own." He turned and stormed off, each step loud and deliberate. He was obviously furious. In the past, Louis would have scrambled after him to calm him down. But this time, he merely frowned. He didn't chase after him immediately. Instead, he turned to look at me. His lips parted as if to speak, but he hesitated, his expression holding back something unsaid. I guessed he saw himself as the tragic male lead now. "Stefan," he said, "wait for me. I need to talk to you." With that, he stood and left to chase Fotis, as if I'd wait for him. What a joke. I rolled my eyes inwardly. When I turned back, I saw Tam looking at me with a hint of grievance. "Do you still care about him?" Tam's features were as elegant as ever. He lowered his lashes, staring at me like a puppy abandoned by its owner. I quickly shook my head. "No. I was just asking. I don't even know him." At my answer, Tam instantly brightened. Just one sentence, and he was all sunshine again. "Then let's go home." "Okay." Tam could afford to stay home with me for a few days, but not forever. And honestly, I didn't want to stay cooped up either. Mostly because Tam was becoming clingier by the day, acting like an emperor too smitten to go back to court. So I said I wanted to return to work. Tam agreed reluctantly, looking completely aggrieved. Then I caught him sending red envelopes to all my team members, a work 90,000 each. I suspected they were hush money. After all, only a few people at the company knew my boyfriend was Louis. I opened his chat history with Louis and saw their exchange. "Louis, Tam, this is how you watch over Stefan from me. I treated you as a friend, and you stabbed me in the back. Tam, you two broke up. He's single. Louis, he lost his memory. You're lying to him. I'm his boyfriend, not you. Tam, and where were you when he had the car accident? Off on a date with someone else. You didn't cherish him, someone else will. Louis, I won't let you win. He loves me, not you. Tam, then go ahead. Try your luck." Louis was confident Stefan would fall in love with him again. And maybe he would have if I hadn't been so stupid and so in love before. That's how he dared to lie to me, to use me. Louis rarely posted anything on social media. His feed was nearly empty. But last night, He posted a story. I had a little cold, and someone stayed with me all night just because they were worried. See? You still get anxious when I'm sick. The photo showed Lewis's sleeping profile. It had been posted by photos from Lewis's account. That night, Lewis told me to wait for him. But instead, he spent the night with Fotis. If I believed him, if I'd waited like a fool, I would have waited till dawn. Alone. Between Fotis and me, he always chose Fotis. Because I was needy. Because I couldn't let him go. He thought I would always be there, waiting for him. But I was never his first choice. And my love had become the very reason he thought he could mistreat me. Well, then I could take it back whenever I wanted. After a long break, I finally returned to work. Tam hadn't been at the office much lately. He was busy today too. So I left after work by myself. He kept messaging me, complaining about how hectic his day was, and how much he missed me and wanted to go home. I sighed and sent back a reply. Me, just focus on work. I'll be waiting at home. Tam, okay. I'll be quick. He sent a flurry of kissy face emojis. It was so adorable. I was about to head home only to find Lewis waiting downstairs outside my building. He stood there, tall and striking, with naturally sharp features. His handsome face turned heads. A few people even stopped to look, but his eyes were fixed solely on me. Stefan, he said, can we talk? I already knew what he wanted to say, but I was curious to see what kind of show he'd put on this time. So, we went to a cafe. He began by apologizing. Sorry. Something urgent came up at home last night. I couldn't get away. You must have waited a long time, didn't you? Urgent matter. You mean staying the night with Fotis and his cold? I gave a faint smile. Mr. Lewis, you're overthinking. We're not that close. Why would I wait for you? Lewis's expression stiffened. His gaze dropped to the ring on my finger, and a smile tugged at his lips. Well, I'm glad you didn't wait. Stefan, so you're still wearing the ring? I glanced down at the ring. Don't call me Stefan. We're not close. This is my engagement ring from my boyfriend. What does it have to do with you? Lewis looked up at me. Because I'm your boyfriend. That ring, I gave it to you. Our initials are engraved inside. We were supposed to get married. Tam lied to you. He went on, listing off shared memories to prove that we had once been together. I simply looked at him calmly. Then I asked, you say you're my boyfriend. Do you have any proof? Do you know my hobbies, my preferences, my habits? Lewis froze for a few seconds. He said nothing, because he didn't know any of them. He didn't even have a single photo of us together on his phone. I said flatly, since you don't know anything, how can you claim to be my boyfriend? His tone turned colder. Why are you being so aggressive? I'm trying to protect you. I don't want you to be deceived. Tam isn't your boyfriend, it's all fake. And you think you're real. Then why did you mark another Omega? His brows drew together. I told you it was because, and you be okay with your boyfriend being marked by another Alpha? You know exactly what it means when an Omega is marked. They become emotionally dependent on that Alpha. You have a boyfriend and still mark someone else. You want it all, Lewis. It's pretty damn clear. His expression darkened with discomfort. I didn't want to hear another word. I took off the ring and held it in front of his face. Also, this ring, it doesn't have the initials you mentioned. My boyfriend and I are very much in love. Please stop bothering us. The ring looked similar to the one he'd given me, but it wasn't the same. There were no initials inside, only a tiny engraving of a little lamb. He stared at the ring. His lips pressed into a tight line. He didn't speak. I turned, ready to leave. And then I heard that voice again. System, that ring is from the True Male lead. Tam is the official pairing. It's their bond ring. Lewis's face turned stormy. Wasn't he supposed to be abroad? Why is he back again? System, my energy might have been too low. So he returned. But don't worry. The mission is already complete. My steps faltered. Official pairing? Tam is my destined match. Just as I stepped out of the cafe, I saw Tam hurrying toward me, breathless and disheveled. His hair was messy, his expression anxious, and he looked like he'd just run a marathon. The moment he saw me, he skidded to a halt. Stefan. His lashes trembled, his lips pressed together tightly. It was obvious he was scared, and I knew why. He'd heard I left with Lewis, and dropped everything to rush over, terrified that I might run back into Lewis's arms. Yesterday he had stood tall in front of Lewis, full of confidence, saying, go ahead, let him try. But now, he had zero confidence at all. At the slightest disturbance, he panicked, ran here like a madman, scared to death he might lose me again. I let out a quiet laugh, helpless and a little amused. What are you doing here? I missed you. Let's go home. Tam walked over and held my hand tightly. Then he looked past me at Louis, face cold and slightly fierce. Please don't arrange private meetings with my boyfriend. He doesn't know you. And if it happens again, I won't be so polite. Louis scoffed. His sharp eyes glared at Tam. Feeling guilty, are we? Tam's grip on my hand tightened like he was guarding something precious he'd stolen, warding off a predator who might snatch it away. Love makes people afraid. Maybe he wasn't as confident as he pretended to be. I felt a little sorry for him. I squeezed his hand gently, steadying him. Then I turned to Louis with a calm, icy look. Tam's right. I'm not seeing you again. Don't come looking for me. Then I tugged Tam's hand and said to him, let's go. Let's go home. He blinked in surprise, then lowered his gaze to meet mine. Within seconds, stars bloomed in his eyes. Okay. Louis watched us in silence. A mix of disbelief and confusion filled his expression, like he was only just realizing that the one who had once waited quietly behind him, always there when summoned, was now truly gone. Louis clenched his fists. Panic welled up in his chest. Louis, is there a way to get Stefan's memories back, system? Why? If he remembers, he'll start clinging to you again. Little fish won't like that. Louis, just answer me. Is there a way or not? I'm not doing this mission anymore. I don't want him to forget me. If he hadn't forgotten, Tam wouldn't even have had a chance. System, sorry host. The contract is irreversible. You made the wish. As long as Fotis recovers, I'll do anything. That's when I appeared. Isn't this what you wanted? Louis fell silent. He stared at Tam and me walking away, his fists tight, veins bulging. His lips parted, but nothing came out. Back home, Tam couldn't stop gazing at me, eyes sparkling, soft and affectionate. He stared so intently I started to feel creeped out. Why are you staring at me like that? He was caught red-handed and actually looked shy. I don't know. I just want to look at you. It was kind of cute. Whatever. Let him look. I glanced down at the ring on my finger. Then I thought about that night when Tam said he wanted to marry me. I turned to him, serious. Have we met before? Tam blinked. Surprise and nervousness flickered in his eyes. You remembered? It seems we really had met, but unfortunately I didn't remember it. Tam saw the confusion in my eyes and smiled gently. We did, but we were just kids back then. My hometown is a small village, Kingle. I used to stay there when I was little. My grandma loved the countryside. She chose that village to settle in, and I went with her. I was the city boy visiting the countryside, and you were the real village kid. You walked on muddy paths like you'd never seen dirt before. I used to sit in the tree and laugh at you. Your brows would furrow, your delicate little face all scrunched up in annoyance. Then you'd look up at me. I was stunned. So stunned, I slipped from the branch and landed flat on my butt. You laughed, and I, forgetting all about the pain, laughed too. After that, we played together all the time. You were handsome even as a kid. So many children wanted to be your friend, but you only wanted to play with me. In my hometown, everyone spoke the local dialect. The words for yang and lamb sounded the same, so I thought my name was Chen Lam. When I introduced myself to Tam, I even pointed at a sheep and said, that one. That's the one. We made a promise to play together forever. We'd always be each other's favorite. Tam asked, what if we grow up and get married to someone else? I frowned seriously. Then we'll marry each other. That way, we'll still be each other's favorite. Okay. Pinky promise. I said, pinky promise. I'll marry you. I'll wait for you. It was a time full of joy. But afterward, Tam didn't come find me for a very long time. And when I went looking for him, he was already gone. Something happened in Tam's family. He went abroad. By the time he returned, I had already moved away to another city for school. The name I'd given him was wrong. He couldn't find me. It was like a corner of my memory had been cloaked in fog all these years, and now it had suddenly cleared. That was when Louis entered my life. The system's interference had driven Tam abroad, and Louis stole his storyline. But Tam, who was supposed to stay overseas, came back. He found me, but by then, I was already with Louis. All those promises, only he remembered them. He kept waiting, clinging to that hopeless promise. He watched me fall in love with someone else. It must have hurt so much. I lowered my gaze and said softly, I'm sorry. Tam looked down, staring at me with a gentle smile in his eyes. This wasn't your fault. It's mine for not staying by your side. But that's all in the past. What matters is that, in the end, things turned out right. After that day, I thought everything between Louis and me was over. With his personality, he'd never come looking for me again. After all, to him, I was just a mission target. Now that the mission was complete, there was no reason for him to stick around. But instead, he grew even more persistent, showing up at the company, asking mutual friends to convince me, saying we were once lovers, talking about how deeply in love we used to be. Honestly, proving we'd been together wasn't difficult. I knew that, but I pretended not to believe a word. No matter what evidence he showed, I refused to believe him. The once arrogant Louis, who'd looked down on me so dismissively, had now become the type of ex who clung and wouldn't let go. Tam had to chase him away several times. Louis practically wanted to camp by my side, afraid I'd slip away again. From the system's conversations with Louis, I learned that Fotis had thrown several tantrums because of all this. But this time, Louis didn't go comfort him. He felt Fotis had recovered, and that I only forgot about him because of Fotis. He was already irritated, and dealing with a needy Fotis only made him more impatient. Until Fotis relapsed. I heard it was serious. I hadn't seen Louis for several days. When I finally did, it was a week later. I was returning home from work and found him waiting outside my apartment. He looked pale, worn out, and travel-stained. The light in his eyes had dimmed. There was no trace of his usual confidence. When he saw me, a shadow crossed his gaze. His eyes were filled with self-mockery. "Stefan, you didn't lose your memory, did you?" His mission had failed. Fotis wasn't cured. He knew I'd lied to him. It was only a matter of time. That's right. I didn't. Louis clenched his fists. Then why did you lie to me? Was it fun playing me like that? I laughed. Who lied to who first? Wasn't the whole point to make me lose you, so I learned to cherish you? What are you here for now? Because the mission failed, so you're trying to calm me again? His pupils shrank. His expression shifted from anger to shock, like my words had completely stunned him. You? How? But he didn't have the strength to finish his sentence. He stepped forward, trying to grab my hand. I dodged him. He froze, face pale, eyes red. When I pulled away, his thin lips trembled. It's not like that. This mission, it wouldn't have hurt you. It was just using your luck to cure Fotis. You'd only lose your memory, but you'd save his life. I figured, once it was done, I'd win you back. We'd be like before. Wouldn't that be good? There's nothing between Fotis and me. The one I love is you. I laughed bitterly. It's because you wouldn't lose anything, that you're so self-righteous about offering up my everything. So I'm the protagonist, and that means I deserve to be targeted, to have my halo stolen by you. You say, that's all. But what about the pain I went through? You never mentioned a word of that. At that time, my family's store went bankrupt. We were in debt. My parents argued constantly, sometimes even got violent. The atmosphere at home was suffocating. All I wanted was for the holidays to come, so I could escape to the countryside. But after my grandma passed away, I didn't have anywhere to go. I was hoping Louis would show up, and I was terrified he would, because every time I saw him, I felt so small. I was scared he'd see the mess my life had become. But Louis still came. He kicked the door open, found me collapsed on the floor. Before I blacked out, I saw the fear and sorrow in his eyes. He cradled me in his arms. His warm tears fell onto my cheeks. He kept begging me not to fall asleep, kept saying he was sorry, that it was all his fault for not protecting me. He saved me. Like a beam of light slicing through rotted floorboards, illuminating the mold covered, mushroom-like person I'd become, buried beneath. I never forgot that moment. That's why I forgave Louis for so many things. No matter what he did, whether it was abandoning me or never truly loving me, I could overlook it all. I could keep lying to myself and loving him. But it was all fake. Just another scene from Louis's redemption arc. He had been standing outside the door the whole time, listening, while I was beaten, waiting, until it went silent before he called the police and burst in to save me. Fotis may be sick, but he has loving friends and family. Everyone pampers him. I was jealous of him. Always have been. I said, if I didn't have this so-called protagonist halo, I probably would have collapsed a long time ago. If this is the price of being the lead, then I'd rather not be. You're right. I'm emotionally needy. You knew how much you meant to me, and you still chose to manipulate me, abandon me, use me. My pain became your leverage, your weapon. I looked at him with sharp mockery in my eyes. This is your version of love. That's disgusting. I don't need it. Whoever wants it, let them take it. Louis stood frozen in place, back hunched, waves of dull pain crashing through his chest, keeping him from standing tall. He didn't dare meet my gaze. The wind blew past, lifting the wrinkles in his coat. He looked utterly defeated. His eyes were red as he looked at me and stepped forward to grab my hand. I'm sorry, Stefan. I'll make it up to you. Please, give me another chance. We were so in love before I know I was wrong. Please, just one more chance. Louis clung to me as if he couldn't understand the word no. Then, as if a thought suddenly hit him, his eyes lit up. The mark. If I just mark you, you'll fall in love with me again. As he spoke, he lunged toward me, mouth open, ready to bite. I struggled with all my strength, heart pounding in panic. The natural strength difference between Omega and Alpha left me at a clear disadvantage. But just then, Louis was yanked off me by Tam, who had appeared at some point and immediately received a heavy punch to the face. Blood spattered instantly. Tam, furious and unwilling to stop, continued hitting him over and over, leaving Louis completely defenseless. The sharp scent of Tam's pheromones spread through the air, oppressive and commanding. Seeing that Louis was about to get beaten to death, I rushed over and grabbed Tam's arm. Tam, that's enough. Calm down. Tam finally snapped back to himself. He shoved Louis aside, now dazed and bloody, and turned back to me. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? His anxious, worried expression made me smile helplessly. No. The one who needs medical attention now is Louis. Louis was taken to the hospital while I brought Tam back home. I didn't know how much he had hurt or when he arrived. But either way, it was time to be honest with him. I looked him in the eye and said, I have something to tell you. Tam's jaw tightened slightly, and he looked unsure. What is it? I never actually lost my memory. I know. I froze, staring at him, surprised. You knew. When did you find out? His dark gaze locked onto mine. When you told Louis you liked me and wanted to marry me. You'd never said anything like that before. Not even once. And suddenly, you said it in front of him. Then why? Why didn't you say anything? Why did you just go along with it like nothing happened? Tam replied calmly. Because I didn't care. No matter why you said you liked me, whether it was to use me or to make Louis jealous, I'd go along with whatever you wanted. I opened my mouth, but no words came. My silence seemed to unsettle him. His eyes flickered nervously, like he feared he had lost all value to me and was about to be discarded. He looked so pitiful. I curved my lips into a faint smile and asked, so you go along with anything? What about marrying me? What about marking me? Tam's eyes widened in disbelief, as if a tidal wave of joy had just knocked him over. Yes, both, everything. His pheromones, rich with the scent of steak, swept through the air, and twined tightly with my own grape-sweet scent. Tam lifted me into his arms and carried me to the sofa. He licked the sensitive spot on my neck, but hesitated to bite down. Curled up in his arms, I trembled uncontrollably. My fingers clutched at the fabric of his shirt. Hurry up? If you keep dragging this out, I'm seriously going to lose it. Even the grape skin is about to tear, and you still won't bite. Urged by my complaints, Tam finally sank his teeth in. My body jolted. Ah. His alpha pheromones flowed into my gland and fused with the scent of grapes. My back arched. I buried my face into the crook of his neck, clinging to him tightly. It took me a long while to catch my breath. Tam looked worried, thinking he'd hurt me. Stefan, are you okay? Let me see. He tried to lift my face, but I held him tighter. No. Tam paused. The pressure against his lower abdomen told him everything he needed to know. His Adam's apple bobbed. His eyes remained gentle, but a subtle, stormy gleam appeared beneath the surface. Do you want me to help you? My voice was hoarse, a little annoyed and exasperated. Do you really need to ask? You're my alpha. But I didn't expect him to ask me that. Or what came next. Because we were marked, I could sense his emotions. He was so happy, giddy with joy. Then he got very hands-on, and still had the nerve to ask, am I a good alpha? I was dizzy, and couldn't even answer. That made him pout. Either I answered, or he wouldn't stop. That night was a blur of pleasure. Even afterward, as I lay breathless and spent, he still whispered over and over into my ear, my Omega. I mumbled lazily, I'm yours. When Tam and I got married, Louis showed up uninvited. Fotis didn't come. In the past, he'd often feigned illness to get Louis's attention, but Louis never went to see him. This time, he even slit his wrist. But Louis still didn't go. He was found in time and sent to the hospital. Childhood friends, and that was how they ended. Louis wore a black suit that day, looking more like a groom than a guest. When he looked at me, his gaze was full of sorrow, deep and unshakable. I'm sorry. His fist clenched. He still couldn't accept it. He still believed Tam had stolen his place. If he treats you badly, I cut him off, gently but firmly. He won't. And none of this concerns you anymore. Under the gaze of all our guests, Tam and I finished our vows. And finally, the happiness that belonged to me had arrived.